Hey guys, it's Ashley from the Frontline of Grief, the Mortuary Science Student Study Hub. I wanted to reach out to you today with another video about Thanatology, and this is a very basic roots of it and things that you need to know that can be exhibited as normal reactions to grief. And all of these come from Eric Lindman's 1944 paper, The Symptomatology and Management of Acute Grief. In this paper, he states that there are 5 different symptoms that are 5 different experiences that a person might go through that are totally normal to the grief process. The first one being somatic or bodily distress. The next one being, I'm having a hard time recalling now, so this is why we're here, right? Preoccupation or with the image of the deceased, so constantly thinking about that person. Guilt related to the death or related to the circumstances of the death. Hostile reactions, and the inability to function as one did before the loss. So these are all totally normal experiences that people have when they're going through grief. I want to kind of go into some more of the specifics about things that are normal, going with the feelings, the physical sensations, the cognitions, and the behavior. Excuse me, I'm a little stuffy. I think I might have some allergies going on. Y'all are going to hear me next week and think it's a different person. Okay, I hope so anyway. So for feelings, we have sadness, anger, guilt, anxiety, loneliness, fatigue, helplessness, shock, yearning, emancipation, relief, and numbness. So a few of these that I want to go into. Sadness is obvious one. Anger can stem from a lot of different places, a lot of different reasons to be angry. Guilt associated with the way the person died or with the fact that you weren't there maybe. There's a lot of reasons why one might feel guilty. And guilt can be a secondhand feeling that comes from 2 of the other ones on the list, emancipation and relief, because sometimes if the person's father maybe passed away and that father was very demanding or very controlling of the person's life, they might feel a sense of emancipation, that they no longer have that influence, and they might also feel a sense of relief that they're kind of on their own now. But in a result of having those feelings, guilt rears its ugly head, and then you feel guilty for having those feelings. All of the feelings, though, however, encompassed in the normal grief range feelings. So physical sensations, we have a hollowness in our stomachs, the tightness in the chest, tightness in the throat, very sensitive to noises, short of breath, weakness in your muscles, a sense of depersonalization, like you're in a room but you're like not really there, you're kind of out of it, lack of energy, and dry mouth, all sensations that typically are acute grief symptoms. And a lot of people sometimes people will go to the hospital thinking that they're having an issue physically, but it's really just physical symptoms of your grief. I know we're all familiar with these different feelings, and you might not necessarily relate them to your grief, so it's very important to remember that these are physical sensations that arise from grief. There's also some cognitions that are totally normal. Confusion. My book states a situation where a taxi cab driver's daughter had just passed, and he could not remember any of the roads that he had been driving on for years. So that's a confusion. Preoccupation is constantly thinking about that person. You just can't get your mind to think about anything else. Sense of presence, which is where you sense that that person is with you, and also hallucinations. There are studies being done to say if hallucinations are actually real sightings of the deceased coming back to check in with you, or if they're just hallucinations. As of right now, we're listing them as hallucinations until further research is conducted. There's also the behaviors that one might exhibit in acute grief. That's going to be problems sleeping, problems eating, absent-mindedness, social withdrawal, dreams of that person, avoiding things that remind you of that person, sighing, crying, searching and calling out. This can be out loud or in your head. Restless hyperactivity, constantly having to be go, 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 do, 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 so you don't have a second to sit down and think about what's really going on. Visiting places that were important to that person and carrying objects that were important to that person. And finally, treasuring items that actually belong to that person. These are all totally normal behaviors, and I think that it's important to recognize these all as normal behaviors because grief is not cookie cutter. Every person that you're going to encounter in the field is going to be grieving in a different way from a different situation, because not only are there these different feelings, physical sensations, cognitions, and behaviors, but there's also different mediators that go into play that can affect how a person reacts to a certain loss or a certain death. So those will be coming up in later videos. As for right now, I just wanted to lay down the basics so that you guys can all know the normal grief symptoms that people might be experiencing. So if I said anything wrong, or if you want to add anything, please feel free to leave me some comments or questions, and we will figure this out together. Like I said before, I am a mortuary student just like you, and I'm just trying to get ahead of the game by having some videos out for me and also for you to study from. I will see you guys on Friday with a new video about cremation, also a new video about Thanatology and the history of funeral directing. So I will see you guys on Friday. Bye. See you later.